the United Nations weighs in on trans rights in Florida. While all members of the LGBTQ plus community face increased hostility and attempts to roll back hard-won rights, none have faced more state-sanctioned hate than members of Florida's trans community. Now, the United Nations is taking notice and weighing in. In this week's South Florida Gay News, online and on stands tomorrow, I look at UN representatives' visit to Miami and his meeting with our leaders of our community, our trans community to be specific. Victor Madrigal-Borloz, the United Nations independent expert on protections against violence and discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity, recently met with members of Transinclusive Group, who shared the mounting social and legal challenges facing the trans community. Now, the Biden administration has taken steps to extend protections for the trans community through executive orders and rules at federal departments, including the Departments of Agriculture and Education. But the real threat, at the moment, is in state houses across the country, including Florida and Tallahassee. After the meeting, Transinclusive Group Executive Director Tatiana Williams said, quote, "Speaking with the United Nations was so important because it broadens our world on a global scale and puts our local community members in a space where we are able to tell our personal stories," end quote. Madrigal-Borloz says the message was heard, saying, quote, "Despite 5 decades of progress, equality is not within reach and often not within sight for all persons impacted by violence and discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. I am deeply alarmed by a widespread, profoundly negative riptide created by deliberate actions to roll back the human rights of LGBT people at the state level," end quote. And you can read more of his comments in my story in SFGN this week.
Online and stand tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. So where do we begin with this, John? First of all, let me say that I love Tatiana Williams, the ED of Trans Social. She is just such an incredible human. You don't even have to talk to her. She could just stand in front of you and you feel like a better person just by breathing her air.
Absolutely.
So let's start there. Okay. So, and what a great quote from her. So tell me more about this.
Well, obviously, we all know that the Republicans in Tallahassee and across the country really have been targeting our trans community and our trans children more than any other group. So the UN, this representative went on a 10-city tour. And of course, Miami was one of the stops and probably the most controversial city, honestly, because he went to a lot of other cities, San Francisco, New York. These are very accepting places. And while Miami is accepting, the state of Florida is really not. No. So this was about getting a message out. And they didn't just share the struggles that we're having. They also talked about their successes. And believe it or not, there are some, but they're at a lot of times a very micro level, a very personal level, helping individual or helping one small community.
A story here and there.
Yeah, so she was able to share what works for us, but most importantly, she was able to get the attention of a world body. A world body, because this person's going to go back, he's already filed a report after each city, but he's going to file an overall report that's going to detail the stupidity and the hate that's happening in America on a daily basis, and especially every January when legislatures go back into session.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, with all these anti-trans bills that have been thrown at us here in Florida, especially, like, it's just, you know, these are our brothers and sisters that they're targeting, you know, and it's like some people think, okay, like, you know, if we stopped fighting for the T in LGBTQ+, maybe we would get farther, you know, in this fight of ours. Like, you know, we're about to start a fight with marriage equality, which should not be called marriage equality. It should just be called, you know, marriage rights, you know? Yeah. You know, I, for one, and mostly everybody at this table agree that no, it's all for one and one for all. We all go along with it and that's it. But many folks think that if we did drop the T and the plus and the two-spirited, that we'd probably get farther in this game.
They're wrong.
At what cost?
So. At what cost?
Yeah, you're my sacrificial lamb. I'm like, no one is a sacrificial lamb, so that we can protect ourselves. Because eventually they come for, they knock that one out of the way, then let's go after the B. Let's go after the T. Let's go after the G. Yeah. It doesn't stop at just, you know, we quieted them down.
Right, because they get a taste of blood. Right. They want more and more and more and more, so they keep rolling back.
Yeah, it's awful.
Thank you, John, for your story.
You're very welcome.
Online
and
on stand tomorrow.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ+ community.